Hello, and happy Monday for anybody that is tuning in and here to check out what's going on. It took me a minute or two because, I didn't have my paint palette handy, which, why would you have your paint palette ready when you're planning to paint? So I had to run off to another room to grab that real quick. I hope everyone is doing a-okay today. I've been busy working on some design stuff earlier this morning. That's for an upcoming secret project, so I couldn't share that and stream that. I will be streaming some design later on in the week, perhaps later today. I don't know. But the first things first that I'm going to get started with is painting some of this mountainous, this space mountain, moon mountain stuff that on the previous stream last week. Made these things. So if you missed that and you want to check it out, you can just go back to my YouTube and check out the live streams there and check that out and see what it's like. We're basically going to be trying to paint them to make them similar looking to these so that they will all kind of go together in the same terrain set for playthrough so that I can line them up on the 4 different corners. So, my paint palette is pretty messy as little dried paint drips and drops onto my keyboard, which is always good because, it's good to have flecks of paint in your keyboard. Let me move my keyboard over to the side. I'll just pop some of these out onto my floor, knowing that I'm going to go ahead and sweep up the floor afterwards. So these are pretty dry. That's one of the best things about these silicone paint palettes is you can just pop things out. The color comes right out most of the time, and you're ready to go with throwing some new color down into them. I believe I got this from TurboDork, and if you've been paying attention to the Kickstarter campaign at all, that that is also happening on the that we've got some of their paints on the Kickstarter. I just need to check real quick and make sure. Okay, the video is live on Facebook as well. It's going live on Instagram. We are all over the place. If anybody is tuning in, jump in, say hello. Let me know what's going on with you as I go to grab some paint. I'm pretty sure I used either Wicked Pink or let's do a little tester with this Wyvern Fury and see if that's the color that matches the other mountainous rocks. If it doesn't, then I will jump in with some of the pink. Because right now, for these, because I'm not going metallics on these, I'm using some of the Army Painter paints on these. Both I myself and my wife and my son got these paints for Christmas, a wide variety. Now, I'm pretty sure it was Wicked Pink, so I'm gonna put a little dab of that down in my paint palette and start with that. We'll see how that goes. We'll lay a little bit down. Now I'm using a brush that is just beat to hell. Pulling that up in the, you can see that thing, maybe it'll focus with my hand here. It is just super beat up. And that's okay, because I'm just going to get a little paint on it. And I'm just going to quickly just beat this around on here. I don't need this to be super clean. I don't need this to look fantastic. I just need it to get rough color on it and move quickly and just do enough brushing on it to get the idea that this is getting color to it. Knowing that this is the mountainous area, this moon itself is not like gray and rocky colored. It's got these more pinkish colors because, well, I want it to look pretty and fit in with the rest of my Sqwwürmish aesthetic that I have going on. Now, this is a very small brush for this. I could use a much wider brush, and that would definitely help things out. Hey, Doug Duckworth, thank you very much. I'm glad you love what I'm doing. I really appreciate it. And thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions at all about the Sqwwürmish Kickstarter or anything else, feel free to jump it into the comments. And some folks that are over on Facebook or Instagram may not see the comments that are actually happening on YouTube. Anybody that's watching on Instagram, I'm trying to keep my eyes peeled on all of the places just to kind of see what's going on and make sure that I can say hey to everybody and comment there. Now, one of the things with this is this was like building this terrain was super easy. It was just a bunch of foam core and then some Mod Podge and strips of paper to do a paper mache sort of thing on top of it. I wanted it to have a kind of rough texture. It doesn't have to be super clean and precise because, you know, this is for a skirmish game, and I like things having a handmade feel and look to them, and I don't want it to look too polished because, I mean, if it looks too polished, I'll feel bad when I inevitably drop it on the floor and something breaks or some paint goes away or I do something terrible to it because, you know I'm clumsy. And, you know, I think a lot of people would start in one place and work their way like from one area over. I just grab some paint and just start going here and there. And I'll come back and add more pink to this as we go on and start to build things out a little bit more. Honestly, I wish I had a fatter brush with me so it would go a little bit easier, but that's okay. All I have is time. And after this, once we paint two of these things, I'm going to move on, and I've got some PVC pipe, and we're going to make some piping for some inside of a space station, like in the engineering section. Going to do some building there. Going to put some PVC pipe. Going to put it all together. Do some mathing, some measuring to figure out like how high off the ground we want it to be and how long we want those pipes to be. And all of those are specifically for, like this and that, are specifically for scenarios that are in the Sqwwürmish game. And the reason for that is, like, I plan to take photos of all of the pieces like in play and work that into the layout of the book. I definitely prefer to be able to use real photography of stuff and really work it into what I'm working on. As we shaky the paint, it's good to make sure you shake it up good and hear that ball going around in there to really get that color worked in. Just in case anybody decides to tune in and is watching, where are some banners? I think I can hit no. No, I will figure that out some other time, I suppose. I thought there was a thing that I could do a comment thing, but that's okay. So anybody else that's tuning in, if you have any thoughts or questions or comments, I guess I could pull this in, see what happens. Get to see my messy desk a little bit more. Sorry for the jiggle on the camera as I move it around. This camera is not the most stable, but it's on a super easy magnetic thing to connect my phone to it. So it makes it really easy to move around and get different shots in. Yeah, I'll turn this, bring this in closer. So as you can see, this is going to be pretty sloppy, but once it's like all done and you see it further away, it all really comes together just fine. Okay. I realized I'd started putting a comment in Facebook, and I never hit enter, and then it started to like tag somebody else's stuff, and that's just weird when you accidentally tag somebody else. Is there anything that anyone has questions about for Sqwwürmish itself, for the gameplay, the Kickstarter, anything like that? I'm very excited for when the Tabletop Engineers videos go live from when I went over to his lab the other day and we filmed it, because we had a really good game. It was fast. It was fun. I think we went over the rules pretty well. I covered most of that. I have managed to do some slight rule changes after a couple of recent games. Just kind of like the overall philosophy of how I enjoy games. Some of it changed, just like how some of the combat works just a little bit. So the current playtesting is not fully up to date, but that's all right. That's part of why it's playtesting rules. But I think it'll go faster with some of the adjustments I made. And for me, you know, I want things to keep moving. I want the pace to keep going all the time if I can. Just coming in with some more of this pink. I know, like, so we got for Christmas getting the specific packs. I know already there's a couple of colors that for me I'm going to need to replenish quickly. I think, or like I'm going to have multiple bottles of those hanging around, especially as I do like bigger things and start painting more stuff. And also, like, as I use the Turbo Dork paints to really get those metallics, most of those you want to have a foundation of like a base color underneath of them. So for like those pink metallics that I love, I'm going to want to have, you know, pink underneath of it to really help it stand out and pop. Have that oomph. So just adding a little, I'm already putting a little extra layer up here. Let's see, can I do it up just a little more? It wants to stay for a minute, then it starts drooping down. I put a little extra right up here just to give it a little more highlight. And then we're going to come down and we'll do a little right here. Just a couple little spots where even when turning this upside down and over and around, spray painting this morning to give it the, you know, the base coat, I may have missed some of it, but that's okay. You know, you just got to get in there and give it a little touch up, throw a little pink in there. Maybe every now and again, I'll come back with a darker color to go into some cracks if I really miss things. But for this terrain, over detailing it, to me, takes away from the miniatures that you're playing with. You want the miniatures, if one thing is like the most done and finished and beautiful of all of the stuff that you're playing with, you want it to be the minis, right? So if the background elements, if the terrain is a little rougher, it's almost like looking at photos and looking at things where the background is blurred or slightly not as refined and finished as the minis. It's good because that allows some additional separation and some additional layers of depth when it comes to the minis. So if this is rougher than the minis that are going on here, that's okay. You want this to be background and not the focus of the game. Especially when you're playing with folks that take a lot of pride and really want to paint their minis up and do them to the best of their ability and really have them shine. Speaking of minis, I heard from Saul today that he's got some new prints that were done this weekend and some other ones that he's working on with slightly bumped up sizes on scale, which we had talked about for the minis, and some of the minis that I haven't seen in person yet. And man, oh man, am I excited about those. I'm excited to have them for an upcoming trade show in the next, that I'm leaving for a week from tomorrow. And then also just to be able to have those, to see them all together, to get them into play and to actually paint those too, because that's going to be fun, especially, you know, these, I didn't really have a background at all in painting minis. I didn't paint many minis growing up. So painting the first wave, the first 4 minis that are on the Kickstarter now was a very new experience for me. And man, oh man, with them being just a little bit smaller scale than what they'll end up being in the final product, it was challenging, especially when I'm used to painting things that are so much larger. I'm gonna have a little sip of coffee. All right. Tilt this up just a bit. And now this is, I am painting directly on top of my desk, which normally I would highly advise, especially if you're messy like me, to put something down on the base, right? So that there's something down there. So if you do inevitably spatter some paint, set it down, paint underneath of it and set it down and have it leave like a little smudge or something, that, you know, it's not completely marring the table and you don't have to get in there with a whole lot of elbow grease to really clean it up and get that paint off of there. Or maybe even get in with a fingernail and scrape it up. But alas, I did not do that this time. I mean, I guess I could get like a paper bag or something, but already I feel like this is pretty noisy with the rickety rackety of me slapping things around. And I don't know how enjoyable that would be for those of you viewing to have additional background noises as this is going on like some sort of crinkly paper. I really need to grab some. I have some plastic old cutting boards that are like the super thin ones. I need to add some of those to it. So as you can see, like I had mentioned, this is pretty messy, but it's starting to get, if I can go backwards, starting to get that feel of how I want it. We'll come in and do some more dry brushing and just pushing things around, really getting the edges and the corners with the majority of the paint and then taking it away from there. It allows you to highlight those corner areas and make them stand out, especially thinking about like when you're quickly looking at it, thinking about where you want to move a mini to on top of it. You want those edges to kind of pop out and jump out in your mind just a little bit. And again, this could be done so much faster if I had a bigger brush, but you know, I tend to get one or two brushes and then that's what I use. I was always the same way. Like when we paint rooms in our house, I could be painting the house with rollers and things like that, but instead I just got this like 3-inch brush, just slowly going through it and just really enjoying the process. But like being messy here, kind of messy there too. So it's a lot more noticeable when you got a bunch of little 3-inch brush strokes against a gigantic wall. Then I'm going to just come on in here and get that going there. I need to get some more light maybe pointing in from that side, perhaps before the next stream. I do need more of this wicked pink. Shakety shaky. Will Sqwwürmish be a more rules light experience for a skirmish game like Sqwwürmish is for TTRPGs? Yes, and actually, and that's coming in from Doug over on YouTube for anybody that might be watching on Kickstarter or Instagram. It is indeed. One of the things about it, most of the mechanics are it's based on Forbidden Psalm, which is based on Morkborg. So with Vasgrim being based on Morkborg, it has a very similar mechanic to most of it. So if you're familiar with that, you got a D20 and you've got your 4 abilities or 4 stats along with 5 stats and along with any modifiers. So most of your rolls, you're going to roll a D20, add your modifier based on whatever it is you're doing, and have to get a 12 or higher. So it's very similar. So combat moves quickly, just like it does in Vasgrim. Even though this is a tactical kind of combat game, you have 5 characters or 5 members of your crew that you're playing, but they're all kind of stripped down versions of characters from the RPG. And like for this one, what I'm working on now, needing these 4 different pieces of terrain that are very similar in this mountainous area, is the reason that I need 4 is because you're coming to a clearing in these like this space moon in the center. There's going to be 4 pieces of cargo basically, and in the middle of that's going to be an elevator down into the center of the moon. So you need to get to the elevator and then go down. So the goal of this scenario will be to get down into the elevator, and the scenario ends when all crew members go down the elevator shaft. But the thing is, the elevator shaft is only big enough for 2 crew at a time. There's threats involved. There's also things that can be looted. And in between every big round, there's more threats that have the potential of coming. So and showing up. Wayne, thank you over on Facebook. Ideal stream for a snow day. Cheers from Omaha. It's good to see you, Wayne. And then, so with that, if you're playing solo, you can probably get down the elevator shaft a little bit faster than if you're playing co-op or versus mode, or 1 player to 4 players. So the speed of the game and how it plays out is really going to have a lot of variables dependent on that. But the mechanics are very, very much in line with Vasgrim. Just slight variations, but being familiar with that, you'll be able to pick this up in no time. Thanks for the question, Doug. And I'm just going to keep adding some more pink to this. And once this is all done, after it's all dried up, after it's dried for a day or 12 hours or so, I will end up coating all of this with a whole bunch of Mod Podge just to give it that extra stability and give it that strength, so that when I go in and start moving miniatures around on it, it's able to withstand some wear and tear that is going to be inevitable with these pieces. And if you're tuning in and you missed out on how I built this, super easy build, super fast. That's over on my YouTube live stuff if you want to check it out. And also, if you haven't checked out the Sqwwürmish Kickstarter yet, that's the little thing scrolling across the bottom. If you just type in Sqwwürmish.com or go into Kickstarter and do a search for Sqwwürmish, it'll show up. Of course, it's spelled weird because, I spell everything weird. Giving it that unique naming convention, plus that punniness that tends to get thrown into things as well. But as you can see, this is quickly starting to take shape. There's some areas that are going to need some extra paint where it's, I can tell I can't do things backwards, but yeah, like in there, it's looking a little rough. Come back in with a little more paint in a minute once we get this first coat down. Let's turn this over towards you and tilt it up so you can see. I'm just going to go along this edge and quickly drop this in. Like I said, this doesn't have to be super beautiful and super well done. This is terrain. It's more about giving an impression, an idea of what it is, than being that super detailed, super articulated piece of art. Got some little holes down here. And one of the things that I always have to do is once I feel like I'm done, I've got to turn it around and go all over the place and give it another set of eyes, because, it's so easy to miss little things when you're painting 3 dimensions like this, especially when there's lots of nooks and crannies. And the nooks and crannies are what really give it that personality. Like under here, you've got this whole piece that's jutting out from it, and I haven't even painted 2 of the planes of it yet. There we go. Just working some of the paint that's still up in the brush on it. Going to tilt this up a little. Now I won't need to paint the bottom, of course, but I like to paint the sides, because I want to have those going so that if somebody's coming in, say you're playing at a convention or at a store or at a local brewery, and somebody comes around and they see the sides, they can start to get a sense for the setting and what's going on quickly when they see, wow, what's this weird, strange, jagged pink thing going on? Why is it these weird colors, and why is it these odd shapes? You start to be like, oh, this is some kind of strange alien planet or moon. And that's giving them that the way to start, like, actually catching that from afar is a nice way to pique some interest and get people excited about it who may not even have any idea what's coming. So I'm just dropping some of this paint around here. And again, like on this side, I didn't build up a whole lot of texture over here because I knew that this is the back side of the corners. This is pretty much always going to be at the edge of the play area, the tabletop, because I didn't make it so that it was super terrain. How many minis are getting released with Sqwwürmish? Thank you, Doug, for the question. So ideally, and as long as we unlock all the stretch goals, we have 57 currently listed. If we all of a sudden go gangbuster and do real crazy, there's a couple other oversized minis that I have in my dream list. Like, this is what I really want. But at a minimum, it's going to be 57, because it's 56, which are 8 packs, plus the bonus mini that's in with the Turbo Dork paint kit. Now, and also the STL version that's with the all-in digital pledge level. So that's going to unlock, because the next one to unlock we have a couple more packs that haven't unlocked yet, and that'll put us at 56 because it'll all be series of 8. And the reason I wanted to release them in series of 8 was because there's 8 character classes in the core RPG book, and I wanted to have that mirrored in the Sqwwürmish game. And hey Corey, hey Eric, thank you guys for jumping in on the Facebook side. I appreciate it. And so I wanted to have everything built off of that number of 8, so that they could all be in packaging really similar together. Actually, this is some early prototype packaging, so it's not final by any means, but it will look something like this, where the die cut's not finalized, but it's the same height as the book, so that it will sit on it. It's the same depth as the book, so it'll sit on the shelf just like all the other Sqwwürmish books and Sqwwürmish, so that it'll be like that. I'm planning on doing a thing on the back where it has all 8 of all the different 8 packs with little check boxes, kind of like the back of old GI Joe figures. So it'll sit on your shelf and it'll look really good with anybody else that has any other elements from the things that I've been putting out. Thank you, Doug. I'm glad you're digging that. Where else am I live? Corey asked. I'm live on Instagram and I'm live on YouTube. I'm trying to be all over the place, trying to reach as many people as I can and get people to check out Sqwwürmish when they're if they haven't already. Oh, and also, you totally don't need to use any of our miniatures at all. You can use any miniatures you want. You can use rocks from your yard. You can use paper standees. You know, the main thing is get playing. That's all that really matters, you know? You're jumping to YouTube. Okay, Corey, I will see you in a minute. Oh, shoot. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to try and embed this into the Kickstarter page. So I'm going to take a little second from this, and I am going to put my paintbrush in my ear so I don't accidentally swallow it. And I'm going to go to YouTube, and I'm going to try and drop that into the page real quick. Anybody have any questions while we're while I'm doing some clickety clacking and trying to get that up on the Kickstarter page? I totally forgot that I did that the other day, so that hopefully hopefully that'll get people seeing it if they just happen to wander to the page and see it in there. Maybe they'll get to watch a little bit as we go. Build the page. And this shouldn't take very long at all. Story, jumping in, let's and we are real close to unlocking the all the faction themed crew sheets that I would then need to design. And why is that not embedding? It's not showing it like it should. Here, I know. Let's see. Embed. I just need to change the source, I think. It's weird how all this stuff kind of works and kind of doesn't work. There we go. If I use the embed video image, then it takes it and makes it work. Eric's over here now. Hey man, good to have you over on the tubes. Hope you are doing well. Any chance that you are heading to the Gamma? Okay, let's pull all these windows back up so I can see everybody. That's not what I'm looking for. Window and the Facebook. There we go. Now I can comment to everybody. Here we go. When I'll jump over to YouTube. Retro feel with the oversized VHS box. Yes, it totally has that feel a little bit. Oh, and hey, Corey, you made it over as well. And while you were jumping over, I was doing some little things like adding this video to the Kickstarter page to try and get that in there just in case somebody happens to stumble across the page while I'm doing the streaming. Oh, excellent. Good to have you, Dadgammit. Thank you for jumping in. No Gamma for you. You'll be at GaryCon. I will not be at GaryCon. It's going to be Our paths will cross though at some point, and I'm not making it out to Gamehole Con either this year. So I guess we'll see each other at Gen Con perhaps. Yeah, there's another show that's coming that's in my neighborhood, or well, in my backyard the week after Gamehole. And it would just make it way too hard. Plus, I've got another show that I'm a guest at the beginning of October that is going to between that, it was going to put it at like 3 shows in October, which I think would break me. I think that would just be a little too much. And I'm sure I'll be trying to work on something too during that month, not just going to shows, because yeah, that's a lot. And so now we still have one more edge of this that we're going to paint before going in and adding a couple more highlights just to sharpen and brighten up the color. Another local show? Yes, I will let you know about that. They haven't made the official announcement as far as I know about it, because it's going to be its first year, but I believe it's going to be pretty big because they've got some strength behind it. You're trying to do one you were doing 20 a year for like 10 years, Eric? Yeah, that's way too many. And the Gridlock, what's the show in Huntsville in April? Is it Magic City? Can't remember. I don't think I've ever done a show in Huntsville. But no, Magic City's in Birmingham, isn't it? I had 11 maybe on my docket for this year, and I think I slimmed it down just a little bit. Huntsville Comic and Pop. Okay. It was too many for sure. It was for 2 companies plus private invites. Yeah, that's when you're doing that many, it's hard to get anything else done. I mean, because especially when you're doing big shows, like the shows they're like a week long. Not only do you have to plan for the stuff leading up to the show, then being at the show, then a couple of days to recuperate, even if like I tend to jump back into things like the day after I get back, but you're still not like at full capacity at that point, right? And 20, that's way too many. I mean, unless that's like your full-time gig and that's what you're doing, you're just doing cons and that's it. But I know you were trying to do streaming stuff, I'm sure, and I'm sure you were trying to do creative work as well. Yeah, doing your design work. Yeah. And as much as I always like to think that I'm going to get some work done while I'm at a convention, like in the mornings or in the evenings after the show's over, unless it's like a fire that has to get put out, my laptop barely does anything other than maybe check a couple of emails and that's it. Even like when I get up at 5:30 at conventions and still try and get some stuff done, it's really difficult. You feel like 3 to 5 is good? Yeah, 3 to 5 is good, especially if they're the right ones. If they're the ones that you're continuing to grow the audience, make some money at. But then if you go to just the same 3 to 5 every year, eventually, unless you're constantly putting out a whole bunch of new stuff, you're gonna exhaust that audience at a certain point, and then you got to kind of mix it up a little bit and see what else is around that might actually be good. So, unless you get con cred, and yeah, you never get stuff done at a con. Yeah, the networking part is definitely the huge work part there. Yeah, after Gen Con this past year, I came home with COVID, but I've been lucky and managed to avoid con crud. Most other cons knock on my desk and hope that stays in place. Gonna put a little more of this pink down. That's what you're trying to do, find the right shows for you. Yeah, I think that's very important. And I think, I mean, starting out when you don't have as much product and as many things, starting out as close to home as you can to keep the costs down. Doing smaller local shows is good, and then building up to bigger shows from there is super helpful. But then after that, then like trying to find what the right ones are. Because for me, I think a lot of the shows that aren't specifically gaming focused, it's much harder to compete with people that are just there to be in cosplay, or the people that are just there to that just want to get signatures of stars and stuff like that. What made you decide on a miniature game for your IP? That's a good question. So for me, I think Eric, I think you may have met my son at GameholeCon, and he started getting into some skirmish games. He got into a Western skirmish game called High Noon. Then he started getting into Marvel Crisis Protocol, and most of those we were playing very like 1 versus 1, not really a lot of like story to the scenarios, sort of thing. And I realized I had a couple of the Forbidden Psalms books on my shelf. So we actually I had read them, but I'd never actually broken them out and started playing them. So I got down the Dread Knights, which is the like gothic horror version. You know, growing up on Ravenloft, that seemed like an easy one that would be easy to get into. So I read that. We started playing a couple scenarios out of that, and I was like, well, damn, why am I playing in this when I can be playing in my own sandbox? And then from there, it had been on my list of what I wanted. It had already been on my list of something I want to explore. But then once we started doing that, then I started actually writing it. And I wasn't even planning on doing miniatures for it until I just happened to meet Saul of Malevolent Minis through Brian Shutter of Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland, and things just all started to fall into place and start to make sense. I'd like to try to go to CamiCon in Birmingham, try out the audience there. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that one. And then some other shows like that, like you can go to a show where you might be one of the few RPG people there and really stand out and be able to build a bigger audience because you're one of the only people there with, you know, games playing make-believe. And I'd always also loved the idea of having miniatures for the setting, but I never really saw it being feasible just because of the cost of paying someone to do the sculpts and that sort of thing. But you know, when you find somebody that you can partner with on a project and things like align properly, then it all starts to, when it falls into place like that, that's when things are going great. How hard was it to play test a skirmish game? Well, it wasn't super difficult, mainly because it already had its own, it was based on an existing rule set. So, you know, I think Forbidden Psalm has been out for 4 or 5 years. It's been a number of years. So, so a lot of that's already been play tested and played through. Most of the stuff was like just kind of tailoring it to what I like a little bit more. So like there's a couple of things that, like in that, when you're in close combat, if you hit somebody in close combat, they have a chance to hit you back at a slightly different difficulty. And I found that the more I played it, the less I liked that chance to hit back. It just added to the overall length of the game, the melee to me. And I kept, because that's not how I play normally, like with playing with the RPG side, I found myself forgetting that and being like, oh, I forgot to do this. We got to go back and do this. So I actually changed that and just removed that element altogether. But there is one of the things that I found with this is in the Vastgrim RPG, I find where you tend to not get infected by worms nearly as much, but in this you do, because the mechanic I use to translate the Grim, like whether or not something has a Grim parasite inside of them, to the roll mechanic in this, there's a much higher chance that they're going to have it, and it's really hard to avoid, which is okay because it adds to the fun in that you can get infected by a worm. There's a high chance, there's a 1 in, like there's a weird, you roll to see if you have a parasitic pleasure or parasitic pain, that scenario. If it's a pain, there's a 1 in 6 chance that it takes over and you become a Grim. But those other 5 chances, it just makes your rolls and things worse for that scenario. And there are mechanics on how to remove the worm, and mechanics on how that once you've been infected by all 6 worms, how you get turned into this special type of character and unscathed, so you can no longer be infected by worms. So it adds the close combat, though there isn't the additional attack involved. There's a higher chance of being infected by the Grim, so I think it kind of balances itself out. That was a long way of saying it wasn't hard to play test a skirmish game because of the pre-existing rules. If I was building it from the ground up, I'm sure it would take a lot more work, especially as somebody that doesn't come from a skirmish background. That was a side of the hobby, much like card games, that were very new to me, because I was always comic books and RPGs. Parallel audiences at cons have always had a reasonable success rate for you, says Eric. Also, having tables running and playtesting your product is a great way to utilize a convention. It really is. I think we have 56 sessions of Vast Grimm scheduled for Gen Con this year, and I'm gonna have some of this stuff at some of the booth, that area, as well as have it at the booth. So there will be multiple chances for people to be able to quickly get a feel for what Sqwwürmish is like, because you need to get people, you got to get people immersed in it pretty quickly. I think part of that for me is also the character creation or the crew creation in this, the discovery of the playfulness of how bizarre and goofy and weird it is. Okay, so comparatively, we've got one of the originals. Now this is going to be a little shinier because it's got a semi-gloss Mod Podge on it. Then we got this one that's still a little bit wet. I think they're going to go well together. Different yet similar. So I'm going to put this over here. Put that over there. And it's time to paint number 4. This is the 4th one in this series that we'll be painting. Ever thought about using an airbrush to paint? Yes, that's a lot. That's double the number of games that we had scheduled from last year. So it's a little nerve-wracking, but yeah, I think that's going to be good. Ever thought about using an airbrush to paint? I have. I've never used an airbrush before, and part of the reason I've never used an airbrush is because I know I'm bad at cleaning up after myself. I've always felt that if I got an airbrush, I would not take care of it, and it would be a giant expense that I would just break. Nice. Are you going to be making STLs in printable terrain as well? That's a very interesting question you have there, Eric. So I was talking to my sister, who at her job has the scanners, like the handheld scanners, because she's in prosthetics and orthotics, to actually scan things like that. And so once the campaign, it's not part of the current Kickstarter itself. It's not part of the Sqwwürmish Kickstarter, but once the campaign's over and I've built all the terrain, because like, I don't, for those that may be tuning in now that may not have been tuning in before, I'm going to sculpt all the terrain for all 13 of the scenarios in the book, because I want to, or sculpt, craft, build, however you want to look at it, because I want to photograph everything and put that into the layout. So once I'm done with all of those pieces, we are going to scan them, and I'm going to see what it takes to actually take those scans and turn those into printable files. So the answer is yes, but I don't know how soon in the process that will be. I don't know if that'll be in like the pledge management phase where I make those available, or if I do it post-campaign like that. A monthly newsletter on the Patreon for the STLs would be dope. Yes, it would. That's something I need to talk to Saul about. So, because right now with my Patreon, I'm currently doing like four pages, like NPCs, monsters, items, classes, monsters. I think I might have said that. Stuff like that as one level. Then another level adds a location. Then another level adds an adventure. And then on top of that, there's also like the VTT file. So I'd like to get this to the point where I also incorporate Sqwwürmish into it and have it where there's a scenario and STLs, but that'll depend on how I'd like to get super ahead of that so that Saul has time to actually sculpt that if he's interested. Once we get through this campaign, because hey, I want minis of all the things that are in the universe, and there's a lot already, let alone new stuff that I'm always wanting to make. Hey, you're going to rebuild your Patreon to be more open for a project you're designing versus a narrow focus. I think like a lot of that is just getting the people on the Patreon who just believe in what you're making, and they're there for you almost as much as they are for whatever they're downloading and getting to add to their collection, which is pretty awesome. I'm a huge fan of my current Patreon supporters and the people that have come and gone before them, and I love having a monthly hangout video call with them and just catching up and getting to know each other as people on top of just the things that I put out. I think that's one of the things that I look forward to so much with the Patreon each month. Like this Thursday is our video hangout, or we'll just kind of sit around, chat, catch up. Not everybody makes it each time, of course. I think especially the time of day where people are in the world, that sort of thing. I'm going to keep on adding more pink to this one. So Eric, what are you working on right now? Are you working on your Shadow Dark project? Just adding color, adding color. Agreed. You've had all your patron for maps and adventure designers or designs. Nice. So that's one of the things I like about making this stuff too, is I like photographing it from like a bird's eye view and then being able to turn that actually into map pieces, like grimming it up and making it kind of grittier and really adding that. Yep, Breacher Shadow Dark and Athantia Dragonbane. Excellent. And I probably said that poorly, but please forgive me for my pronunciations. I still have yet to play Dragonbane. I need to do that sometime. And I've yet to play Shadow Dark as well. But I have Shadow Dark. I don't have Dragonbane. And then Wednesday, I've started organizing a local RPG night at a brewery that you can walk to from my house. So twice a month, I'm running games, and some friends, Gagamut that's on here is running games. One day there will not be enough people, and I'll play in one of the games that Gagamut runs. Oh, I said it right? Fantastic. I'm excited to finish painting this so I can start building out some of the piping for this this space station. So in the piping that I'm going to build out, that space station in the scenario, there's a leak. It's causing a mutagenetic ooze to spill everywhere, and turning people into strange mutations, mutant abominations. So you need to stop the leak before the space station is completely overrun. And there's of course a chance that you get affected by the mutagen. So we're going to be building some of those pipes. I got some 1/4-inch PVC, some corners, stuff like that will measure and cut and put together. And then once that's together, start probably finding some bits and pieces to glue on top. You have VTT set up for the ether system. Happy to run. Oh, that would be awesome to jump over and play. Perhaps after Gamma would be ideal. Sometime after Gamma, I should say. That would be awesome. I'd love to. And just trying to get into some of these nooks and crannies that I built in here. When so Gary Con's in March, right? I thought about trying to get there, but stars just are not aligning this year. And then I thought about trying to get up to Adepticon and just running this there, and stars aren't aligning for that either. Next year, though, for Adepticon, I think I'm going to have a booth for this, for the Sqwwürmish, and of course some of the other things as well, since I'd hopefully be there. I love miniatures, and I think making terrain is my favorite part. I totally agree. I didn't like some of the first terrain for this is the first terrain I've actually built. I do lots of other sculpting stuff, so it comes pretty easy, I think, because I've done similar things, just not for miniature terrain. But wow, is it relaxing and soothing to be able to just kind of be like, let's start cutting these pieces out and see where it goes. And especially, I like to have a rough idea for things, but not have it completely nailed down so that I can let some of the material and some of the forms dictate things as I go, so I don't get too locked into anything in particular. Yeah, end of March is Gary. Adepticon being in Milwaukee, yeah. So, oh, no hotel. That is very lucky. I heard the hotels were the main hotels were sold out for Adepticon when I was possibly considering finding my way up there. Part of it was also kind of dependent on how well Sqwwürmish did, and I don't think it's not going to hit the numbers that I needed it to hit to be able to justify going. One of the projects on your list is making a hot wire knife for carving foam for terrain. Ah, that's a good one. But like everything else, fumes. Yeah, that one's one where I'd probably want to wear a mask for that. I was watching a wire cutter that's just like a overhead one. All cons are a nightmare for hotels right now. Yeah, I bet so. I mean, usually I was also looking at it as like as just like a normal con goer, which is not something I very rarely look at it from that way. Usually there's like hotel blocks for vendors, and that tends to be when I can usually get in and get a hotel, and I don't really have to think about it much. Oh, come on, the fumes unlock the creativity. Yeah, until you've had too many of those fumes, then they wreck things. Nice, a fume hood. That would be awesome. If I had another space or a bigger location, or if I get all of my stuff out of my giant shed, and one day build that out, I would love to turn that into a workshop that I could have a hood, or even where the garage door rolls up and opens up. All about balance. Yeah, it is true. Everything is. Let's see. Okay, things coming along pretty quick. And again, I'm just being down and dirty with this paint job. It's okay that it's sloppy. I do not mind. Just take some paint, get it on the edge, and drag it down to where you're going. Yeah, you feel like it fits the vibe. Yeah, it definitely does. Like that's part of my aesthetic for the fast, rough look. I mean, I put together a whole bunch of character portraits this morning, and between yesterday and this morning, for an actual play that's coming up, using photos from the people. And did it in a rough but similar way. This is Army Painter Wicked Pink. Most of the paint lines have a pink color that fits. There's also like a cyan color that's usually pretty good. And I really like the metallic turbo dorks that I picked out to be in the paint set for that. But these Space Mountains, I didn't really want to have a metallic finish. Although I could probably come back in and put some little highlights here and there to really give it some weird shine. You mentioned making tubing for the terrain. LED light strips heated and bent through clear, thick straws give it an excellent look. Or straws filled with glue dyed with ink. Oh, that's a great idea. Oh, I love that. What is my opinion on Army paints versus Citadel? I've never painted with Citadel. I started out painting with Reaper mini paints because I backed one of their very first Bones campaign. And then I painted a lot of my sculptures with those paints because I was never going to paint the miniatures. So I used those paints for larger things, and then I kept painting with those. These are my first Army painter paints, and I've been pretty happy with these. Turbo Dork paint is awesome. I love all the metallics and the color shifting. Also, the people there are pretty dang awesome. That's funny because you've only really ever used Citadel. Yeah, I'm sure if they would work just fine. I just haven't ever gotten any. The reason we got the Army painter ones is after seeing Jake do some demos with the speed paints at Granite State Comic Con last year. I thought the speed paints would be a good way for my kids to start painting with them and get some immediate results and start to build confidence and then be excited about painting in additional ways other than just the speed paints. Got a prime black for a lot of the Turbo Dork. Yes, you actually just have, almost all those Turbo Dork bottles on the, I'm sure not almost, I'm sure all of them on the side, they have instructions on the best way to get the colors to do what they're supposed to do on the side of the bottle. But, I didn't know that until I actually watched a video of Greg going through that and saying to read the side of the bottle because, who reads instructions? I just dive right in all the time. But that really made a huge difference on how well the color popped by reading how it's supposed to be used. I know, it's crazy, right? But yeah, I'm going to use a lot of the Turbo Dork metallics on the new minis that Saul sends me, especially to really give them that grim vibe. And some more in here. I really like the idea of the clear tubes now. I'll have to do that on a future thing. I also need to, I've never done anything with LEDs, so I need to start looking into that and experimenting and playing with that. Because I know that would be super fun, especially like going to the Dwarven Forge booth at Unplugged and having Nate turn on some of the lights and stuff with some of the fires and the magic fire. That was pretty damn awesome. For terrain, many of the new craft paints that have been released are great. They're cheaper for the large amount you need. Hey, that is a great tip. I need to look at that next time I'm at Michael's. LEDs are much easier than they have ever been. Do you have any suggestions on the best places to buy little ones for terrain like that, Eric? Because I will write it down so that I do not forget. Shaky, shaky, shaky. Need some more of the Wicked Pink. Definitely going to need more of the Wicked Pink. It will not be too long before I need that. And just going to keep adding a little more pink here and there. You know what I do not have open anymore is the Kickstarter. And I should. Sqwwürmish. Come on, Brian. There we go. All right. Hey, we've had somebody jump in since we've been streaming. So whoever jumped in, thank you much. I do indeed appreciate it. Now, where did the Facebook comments go? There we go. Okay, here we go. Coming back in with adding some more pink. Getting this terrain done up right. I'm really excited to have all 4 pieces of the mountainous terrain together so I can play that scenario how it's meant to be and not just with, hey, let's pretend that there's some mountains over here. Although, use whatever you have. Use soda cans, use empty paper towel rolls, use empty toilet paper rolls, empty boxes of cereal, whatever you can to play terrain. You don't have to spend a lot of time or a lot of money to play a skirmish game. Only do the terrain and stuff like that if it's something you're going to enjoy and have fun with. Okay, I'm going to drop a little more in some of the highlight spots on some of the edges to really build up that pink color some more. For everybody that is watching and is tuned in, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you coming and hanging out on this Monday afternoon while I do a little crafting, little terrain building. You use books and jars and small boxes. Yeah, exactly. You don't need the other stuff. It's just fun if you've got it. And well, since I have to have it for what I'm doing, it makes sense for me to have it. But if I was playing other games and I didn't have the right terrain, I would use anything I could. Now, the real challenge is going to be once I get all 13 of these scenarios done and all the terrain for that, is figuring out where to keep all the pieces for all 13 scenarios, right? Because it's crazy how much space when you start putting it all together, it can actually take up. Let's see, how do I shrink this down? There we go. So we are less than $500 now from the next stretch goal. And it's exciting after that stretch goal is hit. Then we have we have 3 guest scenarios from the creator of Forbidden Psalm set in their Last War game, where you take your crew and the crew's going to actually go through a space portal. It's going to go through a portal and end up in that setting, but there's going to be a limited amount of time that you can be there before you're pulled back into the grim dying universe. We've got some other guest scenario stuff planned for later in the campaign as well. It's crazy that tomorrow marks a week of being live. And for some reason, for this one, I decided to go long. I think it's because I'm going to be at Gamma. I told myself a couple years ago I wasn't going to go more than 2 weeks, or more than 3 weeks on a campaign. With this one, I went longer, partially being there, hopefully seeing some retailers who are then going to maybe jump on at a retail pledge level. You said you just break up the foam inserts from boxes. That's a good way to use that. I think that's a great terrain answer right there. And like I said, if I had a bigger brush, this would be going super duper fast. But this brush is by far the most beat up of all my brushes. So it's the one I like to use on kind of smaller dry brushing stuff and when I'm going over things that have texture on them to give it that terrain. Also, green foam is your favorite for terrain as it's better carving foam. It really is. It's super, but out of all of them, that's the dustiest, right? Is that's the one that's generally used for floral arrangements? I need to get some various foam stuff. Not the Michael stuff. Okay. I have a bunch of sheets of pink insulation foam. It's like the pink wall foam. Oh, okay, yeah, like that. Yeah, I've got a bunch of old pink sheets that are just have been in my shed, and that's part of why um, that's part of why I will have that for some of the cavernous stuff that I built. Like this stuff is that pink foam. You can see it underneath of it, and then I just did stacks of it, and then I did paper mache on top of it, along with some paper clay. Uh, I did paper clay on top of it so that I could put texture down into it. But I guess if you're carving it with like a hot knife or carving, you can definitely get texture that way. It's denser and firmer and holds better shape, almost like closed cell foam. Ah, that's good. The pink foam is like hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's. Hey, twinsies. Dadgummit. Yeah, I had some because I had built something similar. Like a lot of artists use pro panels, where it's like two poles, foam in the center, wrapped in carpet. And I built pro panels a few years back because I couldn't afford the real pro panels, and it wasn't that difficult to actually build the knockoff version. So I still had some of that foam in my shed. Parts of this that I'm grabbing are still wet. I know because I'm getting pink on my fingertips. At a certain point, I should probably set it down, let it dry for 5 minutes. I'll do that soon, I guess. Then I'll come back and do a little touch up. Spin it around. Put that pink from my finger on it. Black Magic Craft, Great Terrain Builder, has some amazing videos about it and using Mod Podge with black paint to make a hard shell over it. Yeah, I love using the Mod Podge stuff on top of it to help give it that coating. But I haven't mixed any with black paint. I need to watch more of his videos. I've only watched a few now that I'm starting to get into this side of the hobby, and he's got a crazy amount. Let's see, where is that? So I definitely need to check out more of his videos. It makes almost a primer. Oh yeah, I totally can see that. I'm currently doing the Mod Podge afterwards, and like with this, I did strips of paper dipped in watered down Mod Podge to paper mache it. So there's a lot of, it's like Mod Podge is getting a lot of my time as I'm going into this crafting thing. But seeing some people actually, like I saw somebody else do a video where they mixed either black paint or black dye into the Mod Podge. I think that's a great way to prime it, and then also do the clear one to seal it at the end. It just gives it all that extra reinforcement, because you know this stuff is going to get used and abused as you're moving minis across it, as you're throwing it in the van. Mod Podge plus sand is good too. All right. So many good things for Mod Podge. I bet that gives it a nice kind of terrain texture. It's such a great start versus finish after you've used it. Just black craft paint. Yep. Excellent. Okay, so I'm adding things to my mental list of stuff I need to get. I definitely need to get some sand. Mix some of that in, especially on the terrain tops. I need to decide if I want to get if I want to make any 24 by 24 play mats as just like the base foundation, so there's something smooth to go across, or if I want to build so that they can be universal and used for multiple scenarios, or if I want to, like, I cut some 24 by 24 plywood that I could paint up and do as individual flat bases. But it seems like that's a lot, unless you're figuring out ways to do them for a lot of different scenarios. Playmats are great and give you the table size. Yeah. Actually, I got a kitchen cabinet, like the bottom side of a kitchen cabinet, that's a 24-inch. Sorry for the shaking. I was trying to scrape some paint off the table. The 24-inch kitchen cabinets, and I built a frame underneath it, and I put casters in it. And this, I'll roll it back, I think. Look this way. This is a 24 by 24 top, so that I can move this around and use it to play on, store stuff inside of it. Painted it pink, of course. Playmats, yeah, things don't slide as much as on playmats. Yeah, that's a good call. So I got a quote for making playmats that are 24 by 24. So I may add those in the pledge manager afterwards once I get some art done for those. Yeah, you did the same thing. Yeah, it's that's awesome, Eric. I realized, like, looking at my booth layout and gamma booth layout, I needed something that would be in the corner if I made an open booth concept where we could play, but I didn't want it to be like a bigger table, and I didn't want it to just be a table. I wanted to actually be able to keep stuff inside of it. Yeah, I like the thin playmats for this sort of thing as well. I mean, the thick playmats just, it seems like overkill when you're going to be putting all this other stuff down on top of it. And you don't need stitched edges or anything like that when it comes to a war game playmat. Okay, we're getting close to being done with this backside, at least for, just a rough color laydown. You might need to do the cabinet thing too. Probably go for all the drawers though. Yeah, I thought about doing all the drawers, but then I thought about the height of some of the terrain pieces I had built already. And I was like, yeah, I should probably get the open one underneath and then figure out building out that underside a little bit on my own if I need to. Also, ruling tool carts with a wooden top is great. Lock the casters. Yeah, I think that my problem with that was that I couldn't find one that was like the 2 feet deep, and I like the kitchen cabinets are. And it didn't take much to actually build out the frame and screw that into the bottom and get some rolling casters and attach those to this. Harbor Freight is it's very, very true. Harbor Freight's a good spot to get the cart. I need to check there soon, especially if I get a lot of stuff out of my shed, like I believe I'm going to in the next month or so. Daka Flocka Flame, you're excited for the game and the minis. You're getting ready for work, so you'll have to catch the VOD. Well, thank you for jumping in. I hope work goes well for you, and I will be streaming again sometime soon. I'm going to be trying to stream regularly. I'm in the East Coast most afternoons, and tomorrow night I will be on a podcast, on a YouTube paint play. I can never remember the first word of it, but we'll be talking about Sqwwürmish and other minis games, I'm sure. And I'll be posting that in the Kickstarter tomorrow. I'll be making an update with the link to that YouTube if you want to jump in there. If you just build a wooden frame with legs that rest down into the top of the cart. If you have a stream questions, check out. Oh, yes, if I ever have stream questions, I totally will. This is just like, I'm starting to just do some of this to try and keep some momentum going and some energy going while the Kickstarter is live. I don't know if I will stick with doing a lot of streams once it's over. Part of it will depend on what all I'm working on and what I can do while I'm working. Because some stuff I'm totally cool with being able to do on camera, but trying to figure out like real times to actually be consistent with it, which I think most people need to do if you're really trying to do it for real. I have a hard time with that because I tend to juggle too many things. All right, so we got another one. I need to look around and make sure I didn't miss any major nooks and crannies, but I think that's in okay shape. Let me do a little bit more. Let me touch up some of this paint, and then that'll be done. And then we will move on to making some pipes for the space station. You've got Eric. You've got the streaming down to a science with all of the hotkeys and being able to push things to make so much magic happen. I loved being on your show and seeing that at work. And having all the templates built in to be able to jump from the window views and the various things popping up. It was really well executed. Just continuing to bring this in a little bit. I'm just adding a little bit of solid pink in certain areas just to pop this in. All right. You find streams are great to do work, plus create vids, ads, clips, and all interact with your audience. Your favorite part, yeah, I totally see that. And years ago, I used to stream while on Twitch while I was sculpting my creatures, and I really enjoyed it. And I felt like I was still getting a lot done and interacting with people. Which you're right, that is the best part. Gridlocks would love to stream art, but have a hard time getting it set up with what you want. Doing it digitally can be a pain with an iPad if you aren't streaming from a Mac. Yeah, that's true. I'm currently using StreamYard, which I've been happy with for the ease of use. I definitely like how simple it is, especially on a Mac when I was trying to do stuff with OBS and trying to get different audio channels in was very challenging. Grab Adium Vertical so you can make good shorts and vids. Hang on. Like I said, I need to write stuff down or I will forget. I currently have been using StreamYards is easy. I'm currently using CapCut when I need to do any video editing. It's just super cheap and easy. I know it's very down and dirty for that. Adium Vertical. Grab Adium Vertical. Noted. Okay, going to drop a little more of this pink in. You just found Adium the other day. You can get OBS set up for you in an afternoon. CapCut is great. I have fought with OBS so much over the years. I mean, I haven't done it with my newer iMac, and it was primarily always having trouble when I'd have somebody else on and trying to get their audio channel and my audio channels. It was always just stress, and it made me want to do it less. So with this being easy, it's been updated for Macs. That makes sense. Okay, well, I'm going to set this one down. I'm going to set both of these down here so they're out of the way. Now we're going to get some 1/2-inch PVC pipe. I'm going to set them over here. I'm going to show you use Video Ninja. It's the best for calls. Okay, hang on. Here we go. There's too much knowledge being dropped. Video Ninja D, that's a D, for calls. When are you going to make some black and pink paint aprons? That's a good idea. I don't know. One day, but that has to be on the long to do list, not on the immediate to do list. No, something in there was not pretty. Okay. Yeah, I like that idea. So, especially like this is an apron I've been wearing for years and years. I just wear them till they won't wear anymore for the most part. I guess I don't need my paintbrush, my paint palette. My paintbrush needs to be washed out for real in a little bit. We'll take a bio break shortly for that. Just move that over there. So in this layout, there's going to be a bunch of different pieces of machinery. This is kind of like engineering on a space station. So in my mind, I'm working on it now with all the black and pink I'm using. That is very true. I know that it's a 2 foot by 2 foot square. I know in the far corner, pipes need to connect and they need to come out about maybe 6-ish inches. So knowing that, we're going to have a corner joint. We're going to have this. I don't know how high off the ground I want it to go exactly. But so, thinking about this has to be repaired by the players, the characters. Let's first, I'm going to cut this into two. I'm going to do 2 6-inch posts, and then we'll go from there. One thing that I'm thinking about doing about a possible stretch goal is, are you sanding the PVC to make it easier to paint? I had not thought of that, but I guess I will be after we get off this video. Thank you for that, Eric. I had come across this foldable ruler, which I think is going to be fantastic when playing skirmish games. It's a lot easier than dropping out a big measuring tape. So I'm going to drop this and get roughly 6 inches. Just a scuff on it. Yeah, that'll be easy. I'll do that. For anybody that hasn't cut pipe before, cut PVC or metal pipe, you get a pipe cutter, and you just kind of squeeze. You twist it till you get it to where it's taut around there, lining up with where your mark is. Squeeze it and spin it around. I haven't done PVC. I've only done copper piping. So hopefully it's going to be the same. Then you squeeze it again to tighten it. And once it cuts through a little bit, then you squeeze it again. You don't over tighten it because then it won't spin. But you keep going around, tighten it, tighten it. Tighten it. Give it a little twist on this tightening knob. Just twist basically till it goes all the way around, and then you have a nice clean piece. If you have one of these pipe cutter cleaners, you just put it in there and twist it around, and it'll kind of get any burrs or anything off the edges. And you can tell that I've been painting pink, and I've got pink on my hands because it is obliterating that. Then you can see that it shifted slightly from where I put it, but I want to try and get these. This isn't nearly as important. Like the precision on the length of these 2 pieces is not as important because this is going to go into a corner like this, and then a corner like this, and then it's going to go down on the tabletop. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the same height, but the stuff that I'm going to have off the ground, I'm going to want to try and make those pretty precise. And if I can't get them precise, then I'm going to have to take them outside and sand them down. So that will be precise so that they sit level on the playmat. Let's see if I can get these into view. I guess tilting this down. Hey, there we go. So I'm going to bring this over and get it to the 6-inch mark. I'm just going to draw. Come on. Come on, little marker. Come on, little Sharpie that could. There we go. Hey, Charles, what's happening? Isn't there a fusion primer that could be used without needing to scuff the plastic? I think there is, but it'd probably be cheaper to just scuff and use regular primer. Let's see what primer I'm currently using. Paint drops. It's like the super cheapest Home Depot fast drying all-purpose black. So I'm just gonna loosen this up again, and it's not loose enough to drop down. There we go. And then I'm going to spin this around until I get it lined up. And be able to see that is, come on, there we go. Squeeze. And let's tilt this camera up. There we go. Then I'm just going to spin it around. It doesn't handle the mini paints that well. Keep twisting. A light sand with a high grit works well, even a sanding sponge. Yeah, I've got some sandpaper outside. I'll do that pretty quick once this stuff's ready before priming. And a couple of spins around, and there we have it. Sorry for the loud kabloom. But now, I don't even need to buff that down. Now you can see that I've got a corner piece. So this is going to go in the 2-foot corner space. And then from here, I'm going to put, and I could put a connector in to make it go longer and have it go even further on the terrain. But instead, I'm going to open this. Oh, it's sealed so people won't open it up and steal it. That's crazy. So these are just some elbows. I'm just going to put an elbow on here. I thought I was going to put an elbow on there. So normally, like with real plumbing, you would fuse the clunk. Wow. That was loud. Sorry about that. Let's see. This one's a good one. There we go. I'm going to put these together, and I'm going to try and get them level with one another by putting it down on my table. And then those two are in. And then I need another one. So one side is threaded, one side is hollow. So I'm doing the hollow side here, because then that'll be just a little bit easier. And so now I've got those two. And now I need to figure out, I'm going to have to cut 3 pieces, one to go here, here, and here, to drop this down, because then this isn't going to be, well, shoot, actually, I don't even need to cut extra. I can just leave this as is, and that's going to be a good piece, I think. Let's grab a mini and see what you all think. I'm going to tilt the camera down a little bit. I'm going to go grab some of the minis. Pop this mini box open. I wish I would have washed my hands. Love the pro tips in this chat stream. Yeah, this is a good height. So let's grab where's my, oh. We're grabbing the Manchine, knowing that this Manchine's going to be like maybe 10% bigger, because we're buffing these up just a little bit, right? So we got this. We got him here if he's a little bit bigger. And you've got to come to this corner, and you need to do some strength tests, right? Because it needs to be repaired for the goo to stop leaking out of it. So I think this is totally a good height. So we'll put this over here. I know that's good for a corner. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move stuff off of my 24 by 24 space, and then start putting this out. Once this stuff is then, once I build a bunch of the bases, we'll sand all this stuff, then I'll start gluing bits and pieces from kit bashing, things like that, to this stuff to give it more character and more personality. Even just some snipped off zip ties, stuff like that. And then we'll prime it and then get ready to paint it. Let me start clearing some stuff real quick. Paints will go on the floor. Set out where they're supposed to go. Paints should go back where they go. Move this for now. Okay. And now I'll move this over onto my 24 by 24 area. I can see here, I'll roll this around so you all can see what it's going to look like. Dremel some cutout sections of the pipe, hot glue some stoppers to clock each side, and then out some hot glue with the glow paint. And you got sludge. Now you're talking, Eric. That's awesome. So we can kind of see how this is right here with it taking up this corner. People will be coming in from doors here and here, which I'll have to create. But now let's build some other pieces that'll just kind of fill in the space, right? So we'll take another 2 of these, and then we'll just cut off a piece. Doesn't have to be big, and we'll put in various pipes and pieces all around of varying sizes, and that will start to fill the space and also be used for blocking line of sight. There is a release. There we go. There's a release. There's a little lever on here to drop it down and push it up to make a fast, quick release. So this one, I'm not even measuring this. I'm just coming in and going to just start making some pieces. It's crazy. I don't have a Dremel, so I need to rectify that. The one Dremel I had. Brian, have you ever been to a science and surplus store? That place is a terrain wonderland of scraps and parts. I've never been to a science and surplus store. I don't even know what that is. That doesn't even sound like it's something that should exist. There we have one extra connector already. I already have something that can be some bit of terrain that gets thrown in. They sell online as well. Okay, hang on. Science and surplus. Eric, you are giving me plenty of homework today, and I love it. Okay, so we're going to put this over here. Going to move that. I'm going to make a bunch of these because I think it's going to be fun. I mean, having all these different pipes going in person is so good. You have one out there. If I make it back out that way, which I'm sure I will, I'm going to have to check it out. I'll check and see if there's one in Atlanta, though. But that sounds awesome. Dropping that down. I'm going to make this one a little bit longer than that one was. Then I'll cut this into like 2 pieces. Homework, nah. Ooh, I tightened it too much. Loosen you up, and it went in. There we go. Come on. This is a relatively inexpensive way to get some full engineering rooms in your terrain. We don't have a ton of options down here. It's hardware stores or an hour drive to Atlanta. Yeah, it's true. But going to it also gives reason to then go to like some of the restaurants that we don't have here. Getting some of the burrs off of this. Maybe that's what's causing this to not want to go in here. There we go. I really should wash my hands so these will have less pink on them. Got another piece pretty fast. And you can see I didn't measure, just doing slightly different sizes. This is quickly going to build out this room, which I think is going to be great. And these are going to be able to be reused. Super easy. They're only in Wisconsin as far as you know. Okay, well, there's that. I'm going to have to make a field trip to your house, Eric. Cut a bunch of time, never measure. Exactly. I mean, for this certainly doesn't matter. These are just extra pieces for funsies. Spinning that around. Link for you all. Excellent. Hopefully it'll let you do a link in here. You know, I think I want to do a, let's see. I'm going to do a double. If it'll let me. Do the bird thing again, I think. Here, this has, if you pop out the edge, it'll allow you to go around and clean up the edge a little bit. That works great for the inside. Let's see. There we go. Like an art brush set for $275. Beat them up for your terrain needs. Yeah, that's good because I beat the hell out of some brushes. So I put a T on that one, thinking that it would give us another slight variation in stuffs. And then we've got an elbow at the bottom of that one. And then I'll get the other tiny piece. Now this, of course, now this is going to be a long one now that I put those two together. But that's okay. So there we have that piece there. We're quickly turning this into some sort of maze almost, trying to get from point A to point B with trying to get what you need to do to turn that off. It's also going to make it where it's blocking line of sight. Ooh, we went through one of those pieces. I think I need to check and see how many pieces of terrain I put into this scenario. But you know what? I'm just going to do a handful more, and I think that'll be fun. We do have the biggest hobby town USA, a bit to the north. Yeah, it's been a while since we've been there, but we were just actually talking about how we needed to go to that one. Twist it. Guess I should put the blade part back in as I'm twisting that around for when my hand inevitably slips and I slice my arm open. There we go. Got a few more pieces. I'll make this one a little bit longer. I think soon I'm going to have to craft some doorways, entryways for this, because I do want there to be, like, you don't have to have walls to play this scenario. Like, there don't, but it'd be good to show where the entryways are. Because in this, I think in this particular scenario, you come in one of two doors. Craft streams are like NASCAR. Watch for the accidents. Yeah. Okay, so now these are pretty varying, and one's almost double in height. So this one, I'm going to go and make it in between the twosies. Tomorrow I'll either need to stream more of this crafting. I'll need to jump into the hey Matt, what's happening? Matt's over on the Facebook side. I'm looking forward to seeing Matt at Gamma next week. Time does fly. Matt, thank you for jumping in. I'm just doing some crafting of some terrain for Sqwwürmish, which is my latest game on the Kickstarters. Making some pipes and for a space station engineering area for one of the scenarios. Just cutting some PVC pipe and jamming it together. Okay, let's try and get that. That one's pretty good. So we'll see. We put that here. It's some good variety of sizes. Should I do another? I don't think I need to do another T1. Should I do another corner, but do like a teeny tiny corner? If I do that, I should probably cut that other one down. Okay. Pushing that in. My hand hurt. Let's see, is this going to be, oh, wrong side. See how long this is compared to the one that's the actual, like, the corner that you've got to repair. It's not quite, a little more than half the size. I think that's okay, but I think for the next piece of this, I think I want to do a shorter one coming off of here to allow that to, I'll just cut this one that I'd already done. I'll cut that in half. But Eric, I really do like the idea of drilling into the corner one and doing some hot glue to have it like oozing out like the ooze that's in the scenario. Oh, that might have been a little too tight. There we go. Twist that around. Keep it spinning. Tighten it as you go, just to keep the pressure on so that it'll pop. There we go. Click, click, clack. Do I want to? Okay. I'm going to use the smallest of these two to jam in there. And then that will get this one. Wrong. No, that's the right side. Sometimes the doing the cutting gives it that little beveled edge along the edge, which makes it a little harder to get into here. And since this isn't actually being used for any real water work or anything like that, none of this has to be done super precise or super clean. Just has to be cool. Okay, so we've got the management here. He's hiding behind that terrain. And then, put the other guys up. We've got somebody from a different crew coming in. This is one that my friend Duncan, who wrote Plunderlust. They're coming around the corner here. They can't see through. They can't really fight through, so they need to make their way around. Pew pew pew. If you paint a punch up and sand the ends a touch, you can use them to build modular piping terrains. A punch up. I don't know what is a punch up, Eric. Sand the ends. You can touch up modular piping terrain. Right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus the main one. I think I'm going to go ahead and just take this itty bitty piece that I've got and post this into here and slap this into here. Correct. And jam it together. That's nice and flat. Then we've got another one. That way people will be able to place this however they want. Do I need more? I don't know. I want more. I want more and more of those little pieces just to be able to slap them however and whichever ways. Plus, I really like having the T's in there just for fun. Paint a bunch up. Oh, gotcha. Paint a bunch up and sand the ends a touch. You can use them to build modular piping terrains. Yes. Yes, yes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to cut this piece a couple more times. Let's just go ahead and make all the pieces with this one and make a few more, and then I'll save that one other piece of 1/2-inch PVC for some other project, or as I'm building out more of these scenarios when I'm like, oh gosh, I really need X. It's crazy that it's been going 2 hours so far with the painting of the stuff and then working on this. What's even more amazing is that I haven't had to stop and take a bio break. Old man bladder. But soon, I think once these are done, we'll probably call it for the day, only because I'll need to take these outside, sand them down. Trying to think of what, and then I'll need to, oh no, because once they're sanded, then I can start gluing all sorts of weird things to them and start making them look even more interesting. That's where the fun part's going to be. Not that this isn't fun, of course, and hanging out with y'all is fun. But I like when they start to get little odds and ends on them, when I start to put parts of zip ties on them and pieces from like Gundam kits, like the sprues in between stuff, start gluing that stuff down to it. That's when it really starts to get some personality going. Okay, we got another T almost done. Trying to find a good way to smooth out the edges where when cutting it, it builds up, does the kind of beveled over build up without having to do too much extra work. So at a certain point, it just, oh, I'm trying to put it into the threaded end, which is probably my problem. So aside from tomorrow's Build, Paint, Play podcast in the evening, or YouTube in the evening, I've got to write an update for the Kickstarter, do some writing on, finish writing some more of the scenarios. They're almost there. I think I'll do some streaming of some sort. Try and keep that Kickstarter pledge going. Keep things on the page fresh and happening. Gonna head out to do final tech tests for tonight's stream. I hope it goes great, Eric. Thank you for joining and for being on here. We need to sit down and catch up soon. Congrats on the Kickstarter. Thank you very much. You'll have to give it a review when I get back and the rules are ready. I will definitely send stuff your way when it's ready. Got this. Get to add that over here. Do a couple more, and then this will be done. Thanks for jumping in, Eric. I appreciate it. Good chatting with you. I'll just cut this down, then we'll cut the other one in half. One. Splice this one in half. Always keep creating. That's what we all have to do. Just keep making stuff. Spinning this around. Twisty. Tighten it up. Come on, you are almost there. Twist it. There we go. There we go. Popped it off. Now we'll get a couple more of these. I've gone through this bucket of elbows, which is fun. Wasn't sure exactly how many I'd need, so I bought the bigger bucket versus buying them onesie-twosies. So I didn't really have it planned out what I wanted to do for this. for this terrain, except that I wanted some pipes and stuff. But now that it's coming together over here, I think that's going to be super fun to play, especially once it's all prettied up. For those that are in the YouTube or on the Facebook or on the Instagram, does anybody have any questions about Sqwwürmish while we're here and just kind of making pipes? I'd love to answer any questions about that while I'm around. Very much looking forward to getting closer to that next stretch goal. Work for me. Just gonna try and shave this a little bit around the edge. Scrape that up. There we go. For a second, I didn't think I was going to get that one. Love how easy those come together. And I'm going to go ahead and drop this last corner piece into my bucket of pieces. This is going to be the last one. Oops. Not into the threaded side. That one's easy peasy. That one's easy peasy. All right. Okay, so we got that. Seeing that this could be arranged any sort of way, let's see if there is. I'm going to bring this over, and I'm going to bring the other camera, my cell phone camera. It's going to be a little wobbly at first, but as it goes across, oops, time and space, is kind of what we're looking at for a 2 foot by 2 foot area. Being able to weave your way in and work your way through to this engineering area in a space station. Talk about the next stretch goal. The next stretch goal unlocks in $474, and that is going to be specialized character sheets based on the faction that you choose. There's 4 different factions in the book that you pick. It gives you extra experience points or extra credits depending on how you play the scenario, and it also ties into your faction headquarters or hideout and how you level that up between scenarios. So the individual customized character crew sheets for that will be all designed that is special to give it more of the feel of like the harvester sheet, the people that extract worms from fallen bodies or those who are still living and sell those on the black market. That'll be grosser and weirder than perhaps some of the other crew sheets. Whereas the Legion crew sheet will be a little more standardized and more like a true like adventuring Legion in the RPG side. Or the one for the devout will have things that are all very religious markings, hoping the end of times will come, some symbology and things about how they worship they. And then the Space Raiders one will be one that's dedicated to the Space Pirates or Space Raiders. So each sheet will be slightly different. It'll be a printable PDF for everybody that backs the campaign. There will still be the standard character crew sheet. This will just add a little more flavor and fun for when you play. So yeah, that's the next one that's unlocking soon. And I've got a bunch more lined up, depending on how this goes, just to try and keep momentum going and keep people excited about the campaign. I think for now, that may be it for the day. There's a chance, no, it's 4 o'clock now. Yeah, that's going to be it for the day. I'm going to jump off out of here, go grab some sandpaper, sand this stuff down. Not a Sqwwürmish question, sorry. When you photograph your work to bring to Affinity, what do you use for camera, cell phone, or an actual digital camera? That's a great question. I've recently gone back and dug out a older camera that we have. It's not the best camera in the world, but the thing about the camera is that I can set it up on a tripod and I can take multiple photos. I can change the point of focus and I can move the light around and take multiple shots, and then I can take 10 different photos and put them into one document where they're all the same, but maybe the focus is on this miniature in this photo, focuses on this miniature in this one, and I can silhouette them and combine them to be together. I will get you the specific camera. The specific camera is an old Nikon Coolpix. No, Nikon. Yeah, it's a Nikon Coolpix B500. So it's old, like, but it's still it works just fine for what I need it to do. The main thing is being able to focus in different areas, and then I go and then do that work to combine the photos in Affinity Photo. But the only way that works is that when you need to have the tripod to keep it in the exact same spot. Easel also has an app so that I can take a photo from my phone so my hands don't and shake it and move it and have it slightly shift a little bit from the previous photo, which does come in handy. Oh, you'd love to see a layer stack in the stream? Okay, that's totally doable. Next time I either photograph sceneries like scenario, or when I get new minis and put them all together, and like that's kind of what I did when I did the photo where you see all four of the painted minis together. I took photos of the individual ones in focus and sharp, and then I silhouetted those and combined them together so that they would all come together. So yeah, I'll do one of those. Well, I think with that, I'm going to jump off out of here. I'm going to grab something to drink. I'm going to take some of this stuff outside and sand it down. And then probably maybe tomorrow, we'll go and start gluing some things down to these pieces, depending on how the timing goes tomorrow. Thank you all for being here and being a part of this and keeping me company while I do the weird stuff. I hope to see you again very soon, and have a good afternoon, all.